Hello, friends. I'm your host, Dave Layton, and welcome to Signs of Our Time, discovering America's heritage, one sign at a time. This podcast is designed to provide the story behind the story found on America's roadside historical signs.
In today's episode, we travel back to a time before instant messages, before emails, before even the telephone. We're traveling back to a bold and daring experiment that captured the spirit of a growing nation, the Pony Express. It was a system built on speed, driven by courage, and fueled by a deep human need to stay connected. In 1860, the United States was still finding its shape. The western frontier was expanding rapidly. California had struck gold and was booming, but it felt like a distant world from the east. Sending a message from Missouri to California could take 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes longer. In the 1860s, the problem of slow mail was not only inconvenient, it was dangerous for our nation. Tensions were rising between North and South. The country stood on the edge of the American Civil War. Communication was more than a luxury, it was a necessity. Well, 3 men, William H. Russell, Alexander Majors, and William B. Waddell, had a vision to create the fastest mail system the world had ever seen. What was their plan? A relay system of horseback riders, nearly 2,000 miles of trail, over 150 stations, fresh horses every 10 to 15 miles, riders switching every 75 to 100 miles. Mail would move day and night through every kind of terrain imaginable and weather. Some of it was even unknown. Also, they would travel through hostile Indian country and possibly ambushed by robbers. But they saddled up and began one of the most storied times of a young nation's development. On April 3rd, 1860, the first riders set out. The Pony Express was officially underway. The riders carried a special saddle that held the mail. It could be quickly transferred from one horse to another, saving precious seconds. Speed was everything. These riders pushed themselves and their horses to the limit. They averaged about 10 miles per hour. That was a remarkable speed for the time, and they could complete the overland journey in about 10 days. The Pony Express was fast, but it wasn't cheap. At first, it cost $5 per half ounce to send a letter. That's the equivalent of well over $100 today. Only the most urgent messages were sent this way, and despite its success in speed and reliability, the operation struggled financially. The Pony Express riders became symbols of grit and determination. They were young, often teenagers. They were small, so their weight wouldn't slow the horses, and they were tough because they had to be. Among them were names that would later become legends in the American West. William F. Cody, better known as Buffalo Bill. He later became one of the most famous showmen in American history. He claimed to have ridden for the Pony Express as a teenager. Robert Haslam, nicknamed Pony Bob. He was one of the most dependable riders. He once completed an incredible 380-mile ride when others could not continue. Then there was Johnny Fry. Johnny was believed to be the first official westbound rider when the service began. Jack Keatley. He was known for his endurance. He once rode nearly 300 miles on a single run. And then Bill Tilghman. He later became known as a well-known lawman in the West. Well, these amazing young men were more than mail carriers. They were risk takers. They faced harsh weather. There were blizzards, extreme heat, and heavy rain. There was rough terrain, rocky trails, steep mountains, open plains. There was the isolation. There were long stretches with no help nearby. And sometimes there was conflict in the unsettled territories. A single mistake could cost the rider everything, especially his life. But the mission mattered. Every letter carried news, hope, business, perhaps even love. The riders knew they weren't just delivering mail, they were delivering connection. In October 1861, just 18 months after it began, the Pony Express came to an end. Something faster had arrived, the transcontinental telegraph. Messages that once took weeks could now be sent in minutes. The final official Pony Express mail run was not completed by a single rider, but rather by the last relay team. And William Sam Hamilton is frequently cited as carrying the final mail pouch from Sacramento toward Placerville, California, on the western end. The final ride was made, the stations closed, and the riders hung up their saddles. The Pony Express was over. So why does this matter today? Because the Pony Express wasn't just about the mail. It was about a universal human desire, the need to connect. And although the Pony Express lasted only a short time, it left behind a lasting reminder. People will go to great lengths to stay connected. Well, friends, there you have it. A story behind the story from America's historical signs and markers. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to subscribe and continue listening as we bring more episodes about the rich heritage of our great nation. I'm your host, Dave Layton. Thank you for listening and safe travels.